Tēnā rā koutou katoa e mātakitaki mai nei.
Kia ora tātou. My name's Rodney Graham. My father's name was Tumata. His father's name was Tutete. He was responsible for carving the tupuna whare at Kaiwi Pā. I just wanted to put that in to kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora. My name is Esther Graham and my iwi affiliation is kaupata through my father Maina Graham and his father Ngaruahine.
Kia ora. So the kaupapa of our kōrero is leading up to Anti-Racism Week, National Week on the 21st of March. So we've been talking to whānau about their personal experiences of racism. Can you please share with us a personal experience of racism that you might have encountered in your life?
Ladies first?
Yeah, okay. So I've encountered racism, I would say most of my life, if not all of my life. So beginning from perhaps 5.5 years old, was probably my first awareness of racism in attending school, primary school, and that we were always lined up to have our heads checked, our teeth checked, our ears checked, and I always would feel uncomfortable because it always made me feel as if there was something wrong with me, while we always had to stand. Before we went into the classroom, we always had to have our ears, our mouth, our hair checked. Because when we moved into fielding, that never happened. But having said that, I still felt like a second-class citizen because there was an underlying current that we were different from everybody else because we were Māori and because we were brown-skinned and we were poor. Having attended a Catholic school, the Pākehā families there weren't poor, but we were. And the reason why our parents put us into the Catholic school was because that was their faith. Then
the underlying current of racism that you talked about that you felt, can you describe what that
feeling?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I always felt like I had to try harder than anybody else at school because we weren't given the same opportunities that Pākehās were given because of there was the underlying current of what we were, Māori and poor. It was always with me in the classroom, in the playground, when we would go home. Our lunches were poor lunches. The Pākehā children would take lovely lunches. But that wasn't an issue for us because that was our way of life. We didn't consider having beautiful cakes, lovely sandwiches in lunches as something that should differentiate us. But it did. It did. And also we would have to learn how to do English dances at school for gala days. Well, none of our culture was ever expressed at school. It was always the Pākehā culture. So that's a profound differentness. That's profound in making you feel I'm different. Because we had to learn the Pākehā culture at school.
You didn't have a choice.
No, didn't have a choice. Did not have a choice. So eventually our parents, they worked with the nuns, and we did do songs, stick games. But anyway, the thing is that when I left high school and had my own family, my children experienced racism in school. It hadn't finished with my generation. It was still going on, in that my daughter and her cousin were singled out, just as an example, in the classroom of having created havoc in the classroom, and were accused of it when they hadn't initiated it at all. They hadn't said anything. But the teacher accused them blatantly that they had started the talking in the classroom. So they tried to defend themselves, and she wouldn't hear it. She was putting them on detention. The rest of the class were Pākehās. They had started the talking while the teacher had her back to them. So because of that, my daughter told her cousin to get up. And the teacher said to her to sit down, and she said, "We're not." She said, "Come on, Si, we're leaving." And she called the teacher racist as she walked out of the classroom. So, and then I get to my grandchildren. And again, the racism is still healthy in today's society, because now my grandchildren, my granddaughter has experienced racism at school.
Right.
So it's gone through 3 generations. This is 2020. I went to school well over 55 years ago maybe, when I first started school. And today, in 2020, 55 years later, I have to defend my granddaughter at high school because she's experiencing racism. She had one example is, she had a nose piercing. She wore the little stud in her nose to school and was told to remove it. Her mother said, "That's correct, because you've signed a paper to say that that is not part of the uniform and you will not wear that." However, 3 Pākehā girls, boarders, not only have a stud, but they also have a ring in their nose. They attend school, and my granddaughter notices nothing is said to them. They're not asked to remove it. So it is a very, very prolific thing to say that racism does not exist in this country. Because just that one example in education alone tells me racism is very profound in this country. Even going to apply for a benefit in WINS, you're looked down upon. You're made to feel like you're a real charity case. There's no educating of people in those positions how to have respect and how to deal with those who, through circumstances that may not have been of their own doing, are
Right.
reliant on government to support them. The people in those places need to learn manners.
Yeah.
But because they're white, they don't feel, they don't feel they have to have manners. Why? Because they have a certain kind of superiority about them. What would give them that superiority is that they're sitting behind a desk and they are in control of your life.
Right. So what are you going on? Can I catch up with you?
Of course.
You know, because
Yes.
I'd like to talk about my school days. I went to a country school, and I had a lot of Pākehā friends. We played soccer every morning when we came to school. Then we sat around and we had Milo. And, you know, when I think back, we, as a young boy growing up, didn't experience that kind of racism. And I suppose, you know, being a young boy, we had different things on our mind, you know,
Yes.
and we didn't actually contemplate what was actually going around, you know, what was moving around us. But when I think back, you know, the racism that exists is blatant and it is outward, but sometimes it's very subtle, and how it comes into what can I say? How it comes into force.
Yeah,
you
how
know,
it works in
how it
society,
works,
like
yeah,
the
and how it
undercurrents.
works,
Ant was
the
talking.
undercurrent, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's very subtle. I'd just like to say that Esther's right, and everything that she says. Sometimes it's very blatant, sometimes it's very subtle. At high school, we used to catch the bus in from Aotearoa and jump off the bus, and then we walk straight down the road. And we did this for the most part of the year. And it wasn't until the end of the year, you know, just before exams, that they realised that we were missing. Honest, you know, and I thought, my goodness, how did we get away with that? You know, and then, you know, one day the cops were chasing us and we were, we were being, you know, but this took months and months.
Yeah.
So they didn't really worry about us.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know, that's a good thing for us. They don't have to worry about us. But it's very subtle in that, you know, we lost that time at school, being educated.
Yes.
And, well, learning stuff, you know, and I still think back, I said, my goodness, how racist was that? Because we were all Māoris. My friends changed colour when I went to high school. They become more Māori than Pākehā. I did have some Pākehā friends, and still have. You know, I have got a lot of Pākehā friends, and but yeah, to me, racism is still very prevailing in our society, and not just at the schools,
No.
but also in religion. Which is something that I've encountered, and when I first became a believer, my thought, I was very naive to think that everybody loved you because you loved the same God that they loved. But my experience in the church is that's not always the case, right? So I really don't want to go into too much detail, but I can say that I've been victimised in the church that I thought never existed. You know,
That's right.
Victimisation,
the victimisation, the discrimination, the racism
yeah.
that I've encountered in the church, and
That's right.
I was quite appalled by that. But the God that I believe in, I know He's not racist, right? And I just clung to that in a lot of respects. I just clung to Him, and I really don't trust those so-called leading ones or figures that who I've been under for the last 40 odd years. Majority, all of them white.
Yes.
In fact, most of them white. Because of my knowledge of the scriptures and how I applied myself to the ministry, I was accepted in that group. Right? But not long after being accepted, I found myself on the outside. And I don't think that was any accident. But I think it was something that was something they had worked toward. That's why I say it's very subtle. Yeah, strategically and whatever. It was very subtle. Using family members to stand up, to speak lies about us, all about undermining who we are and where we're from. Our Māori culture was denigrated. I was talking to one of the in the Salvation Army just the other day, a Pākehā brother whom I respect. I said that most of you Pākehā, you think that when we go onto our maraes, we go there and we bow down to idols. I said, those carvings are not idols.
That's right.
On the contrary, when you walk into a Catholic church, all those things that are before you, they are idols. Those carvings that we have on our marae, those are our histories. Those are our tupuna. And you'll never see a Māori going in and bowing down to those carvings. Right? We go in there and we read them, like you read a book.
Or touch them.
Yeah,
That's
touch
right,
them.
and touch them.
And we
That's
can understand our histories, where we come from. The Pautoko Manawa at our marae has the whakapapa from Aotearoa, from the canoe that brought us over here. And that comes straight down to us. And that's our lineage back to the waka that brought us over here. And that's part of our histories, etched in carvings. They're not idols. But, Pākehā, they would put a label, those are still idols. They're not idols. And like I say, racism is prevailing.
They have plenty of idols, those statue things they have in just about every town.
That's right.
That's what I say. You go into their church buildings, they've got a dirty great big cross. That cross is just an idol. It's just another idol. How many pieces of the old rugged cross have been flown all around the world? I don't know. It must probably make up 1,000 crosses or even more. But that's our experience. And as I'm getting a little bit older, I'm 63 now, and I don't look for these things. I don't look for them. I don't look for racism in religion. I don't look for racism in education and in other areas. But the government, especially back in the day in the 70s and 80s, the dog whistles always came out during the elections.
Yes.
Those Māoris have been up to something. The Māoris are doing something, and what they used to do is classify one Māori as all Māoris.
Yes.
Right? And that's how it came out in the news. That's how it came out in the papers. There'd be something really negative on the front page, and then underneath there'd be a story about a Māori. Not so negative, but you look at the negative thing, and then you look at the Māori underneath the negative thing, and immediately your mind relates to that. Right? So there's a lot of subliminal things that they actually do to promote this racism.
Yes.
Right.
And how about that?
Yes.
Their role, the role that media plays in promoting or perpetuating racism and oppressing Māori. Have you got any further comments about that? The role
Well,
media plays in this country?
Yes, well, the media is looking for the popularity vote as a newspaper or a TV program. And so part of that is that Māori are always a good subject to report on.
In a positive manner? Or?
Not in a positive manner. Not in a positive manner. Because you never see anything positive written about Māori.
Yeah, hardly ever.
Well, hardly ever, I should say hardly ever, not never, but hardly ever see anything positive written about Māori in newspapers or in the news. It's taken us a long time to even be able to have a television program. It's been a long time. That was not part of TV, for instance, when TV first came to this country and programs were developed. And it's taken a long time to get the reo in there on television. So I feel they don't, there's many ways that the media has taken a long time to catch up with Māori and where Māori are really at in their reporting. You know, a new word was invented and became very popular through the newspaper. And that word was Caucasian. Caucasian came in the 1980s, 1980s, maybe, the word Caucasian.
Caucasian, yeah.
Caucasian. So when you had a crime committed, they would use the word Māori. When it came to a white person, they would use the word Caucasian.
Caucasian, yeah.
Caucasian. What's a Caucasian? For us, there was never that word in this country. You were either Māori or Pākehā. So a Caucasian could be anybody.
Well, and actually, the Caucasians that they say is today relates to the white person, but actually the word come from the Caucasus Mountains, and there's a lot of Indian who go back to that, and there's a lot of different coloured races that came out of the Caucasus Mountains, but they use it to relate to the white person, and that's where the word Caucasian comes from. And you're exactly right, they started using it instead of putting white person down there.
Or Pākehā.
Or Pākehā, because anything
European.
negative was related to what Māori did. Māori did this,
That's
Māori
right.
did that.
Just last week there was an article on Stuff, or the Manawatu Standard, that talked about a big brawl that had happened in Fielding.
Yes.
Right, and I looked through it, and it didn't state any ethnicity whatsoever, so I knew it wasn't Māori.
Yes.
Because if it was, that would have been the headline.
That's right.
Yeah, Māori
Absolutely.
males or Māori,
Yes.
you know, but there was no ethnicity, so that's
right.
always a cue. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not Māori, it's European.
Yeah.
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 I don't think it's changed much, over the years. And I think that's mainly due because there is a threat of white supremacy or racism that goes through the media.
That's right.
And, it is passed on from generation to generation. And it's still there. It's still there.
It is. If we reply to an article in the paper or put an article in the newspaper, for instance, about something that concerns us as Māori, it gets edited. If the Pākehā editors don't like it, then it's not printed. it gets refused. However, a Pākehā can write, for instance, Bob Jones, whatever they want to downgrade Māori, to make Māori appear worthless, can print anything and it's accepted, but not with us. So the media has an element of racism running through it.
That power element, right?
That power element,
yeah,
the power of the media.
Goes hand in hand with racism.
Yeah, it goes very much hand in hand with racism.
Yes.
So there's a lot of cleaning up in many, many areas of this country. Media, education, social welfare, health. A lot of cleaning up that needs to be done concerning Māori.
Thinking about if we were to reimagine a better society for our children, grandchildren, mokopuna in the future, what could be a strategy towards eliminating or decreasing racism? You know, how do we go about reimagining a better future, I guess, for our mokopuna?
The thing is that in this day and age, as a nation, we should be working together collaboratively, working together and being one as a nation.
Does that mean that other partner or treaty partner, if you want to call them, needs to give up some power and resources?
Yes, absolutely. They need to give up the power. They need to give up not some power, the power. Because you can never have a balanced society when you have a power in place that considers itself superior to everyone else in that society. To have a better future for our children, that's a hard one because it needs to start with the government. The problem came with the government in that the government passes laws, passes legislation, influences every area in this country where people have to function in. The government oversees it all. That's why it's the government. The attitude needs to change at that level, because I don't feel that the government understands Māori. And the government makes decisions for Māori, which they think is what Māori want. How do they know what Māori wants? They're Pākehās. They're not Māori. Only Māori know what Māori want. And Pākehās know what Pākehās want. We don't try and inflict on Pākehās, change inflict on them how they should live, But they're always inflicting on us how we should live. So for a better future for our children, I think they should marry, our children and our grandchildren should marry into redneck families. Have mokopuna. We take the mokopuna. Those redneck families will want the mokopuna because they come from their own. So that will change the way, that will change rednecks. The mokopuna will change rednecks. Make a brighter future.
There's plenty of intermarriages around.
Yeah, there
Oh,
is.
my goodness. My children are
Same, mine
all
too.
colours of the rainbow.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. With the point of racism, there are a lot of good Pākehā out there.
There are.
I hate to say that. When I look at it, I think what you mentioned, power and control, right? Those that have the power have the control, and because a lot of that is related to how much money you got, right? So mammon is it's there, it's more of I think an elitist thing, the elite, they have their power, they have their money, you know, they have anything they want, and because they don't want to give that up. And that's the way they bring their children up. So when they find that, you know, they're starting to lose the dollar or lose something, you know, one of the first port of calls is Māori. You know, so it's Māoris that are doing this, there's Māoris that are doing that. You know, a lot of things were done in past times that are still being doing today. I remember Esther's father talked to me about having to move into town, right? He wanted to build out by the marae. He couldn't build, and I think one of the excuses for not building.
Was it only one house on Māori land? Was it that?
I think that was a factor, but one of the he couldn't build because of it was a flood zone, and he said, and he was pushed into town, right? The thing is, you know, Pākehā are building all around these places at Kaiwi Marae today. So a lot of our people were pushed into town so that the land would become available to the Pākehā. And they would be used to fill up the labour gaps in freezing works, etc., etc. You know, so we were used as labour to make someone over in England filthy rich. You know, Thomas Borthwick's, he you know, I'm not saying it was all bad, but we certainly got the raw end of the deal. Because when we come back to settle on our lands, we find our lands all gone. You know, and Uncle Mana, he always rued that time, because he wanted to build out by our marae, and he wasn't able to. We've had a lot of land. Our family over the years has been one of the Māori landowners in Fielding. If you wanted to get any, you know, loans and that to do anything on the land, see, those things weren't made available to us, you know. Yet with Pākehā, they were readily made available. Money was made available to them to go and do what they could on the land, you know, and yet to us, a lot of the servicemen that came back from the war were given 50 acres. 50 acres.
That's right.
And I always thought, well, where's my dad's 50 acres? He was Māori battalion, got wounded over there, you know, and respected by the old Pākehā soldiers that fought in the war with them. An old uncle of mine used to go down Awahuri and have a few beers, and he would say, he would yell out, Māori battalion. And next minute, a lot of the old soldiers, the Pākehā ones, would come over and put jugs on his table because of the respect that they had for the Māori battalion. But that didn't work out with what was happening in New Zealand.
With the distribution of
resources. With the distribution of resources to help our people have a better living. So we never got any 50 acres. Yet blood was lost amongst us. And a lot of the blood that was lost amongst us, and it's been stated before, were our tuakana. You right? So the leading ones amongst us were taken by a war that virtually we had nothing to do with, you know. Yet we fought in both wars. Our people fought in both of those wars, and we still have nothing to show for it. The land that was here that belonged to us, taken. That's why we have the treaty claims to try and adjust this wrong. This is all racism. This is elitism and more. Right? It's greed. And I think the very same thing is happening all over the world today. The white nationalist governments, the right, they call them the right, are rising up throughout Europe, America, even it's not so prevailing here, but it's here. It is here.
It definitely is
It's
here, yes.
just waiting to manifest itself, and that shooting down south proves it. The shooting of all those Muslim people.
Yeah.
I want to, for a brighter future, the government has to stop putting a hand over Māori's mouth when they have a solution. For instance, Destiny Church has a program called Legacy of Man Up. It's successful. I've seen the success of it. And this program is faith-based, but it helps our men and our women who are in domestic violence problems, drug problems, alcohol problems. And this program gives the participants a platform to speak safely and not be judged. And because they're able to speak about their mamai, it strengthens them. Now, they have wanted to take this program into the prisons because that's where a lot of the participants are either going back into prison or there's those of our Māori men and women in prison, and they're building more prisons for our people.
For our people, on our land.
They're not on our land. They're not building prisons for their people. It's for our people. Now, Destiny Church has, and I'm not promoting Destiny Church, but I'm promoting what they do successfully for our people, because it's successful. It's because it's our people caring for our people. Our people can talk to their own. They don't need a psychiatrist. They don't need a psychologist. What they need is to be able to relate to somebody who understands them fully. Because we're not about just one thing that needs to be healed with us. It's a holistic, because the Aotearoa is involved as well, which a psychologist or a psychiatrist cannot bring to the table with our people to counsel them.
I don't even think they understand.
No.
On
So,
that note of Wairoa, sorry Aunt, I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
going
that's
to have
all
to
right.
wrap up for
Yeah.
you guys parking.
yes.
Yeah, we've just gone a little bit over. Is
Yeah.
that all right? Any final, statement or anything?
So there is a solution which I believe will change, and that's what happened down with the land protest on the whenua, was educating the council about us. That, I believe, is the start of being able to bring in a brighter future for our tamariki.
Kia ora, Aunt.
Yeah.
A brighter future for our children. A lot of our politicians, our Māori politicians,
Yes.
over the years, Aotearoa Nata,
Back.
who had more qualifications than any other parliamentarian at
That's
the time
right.
that he was in Parliament. Ones like Matthew Rada, and they've spoken about these things for years, about the injustices of our peoples. Even Winston Peter, but a lot of them, when they listen to him, they think he's there on the side of Pākehā, but he's not. He's about Māori achieving within Māori. Anyway, there's definitely been a chorus of Māori men and rangatira and women that have fought against this racism that's been here amongst our people for over the generations. My view on a better life for my children, personally, is just our Lord Jesus Christ. I think that in the Bible there are the answers for everything that we want to know and want to learn. The Bible is not a Pākehā book. Right?
But
People
yet,
have
on
this
the flip
concept.
side of that, some people have used the Bible as
They've
weapons.
used it, no doubt.
That's
No
right.
doubt. No, you know, that,
Yeah.
like I say,
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything has become a weapon that's become useful to them, you know, to promote their stance.
Yeah.
And like I say, in religion, you know, it's not without its drawbacks. Our people were gathered up in a place called Rangiaowhia. They were gathered into the church, and the one that was leading the gathering was the minister of the day. And then he brought in all the soldiers, and they burnt that church down, full of our kaumatua and our queer and our children. And they burnt it to the ground. And the soldiers that gathered around just riddled holes in it. And things like that have been happening to our people. Those things are atrocious. You know, the Jewish people talk about the Holocaust. I said, my goodness, there was a Māori politician that did bring that matter up.
She did.
Yeah, and that we were part of that Holocaust, right? And I do believe it. I do believe it.
Okay. Thank you both for your time to come in
Kia
and
ora.
share your experiences. Ngā
Yep.
mihi nui.
Kia ora.